The doc is in for the latest installment of the Alvin Parker Coaches Show, and he has let everybody know who is the favorite to win the Harlan Hill Award this season. We're going to talk more about that in just a minute. Great to have you join us this week for another installment of the Coaches Show. I'm Sean Robertson, along with the aforementioned head coach of Virginia Union, Alvin Parker, who is 8-1. The team has won 7 in a row, and depending on who you ask, has already clinched a berth in the conference championship game. CIAA hasn't made that official, but like again, depending on who we ask, you guys are in a week early, and now your focus will be at least one more game in the championship game for the third year in a row.
Yeah, we right now we're focusing on those guys down 95, to make sure we can get that one, but it's been a good season in terms of, these guys just making sure they make it happen on a weekly basis. So, that's the thing, with us. I think, what's got us this far is that we've taken this thing day by day, practice by practice, meeting by meeting, and those guys are taking it all in. Mm-hmm. And then you look up and then you get to a certain point in the season and you're kind of like, wow, so, with a new group kind of putting some things in place, for them, because they were new, you kind of see it coming to fruition just like it did for some of the other groups.
Panthers went to Bluefield State, dropped 70 on Big Blue, and all of the talk, not only in this area, in the region, CIAA, but nationally, was the play of one Curtis Allen. It has sounded like a broken record throughout the course of this season, but he has lived up to the talk with a single-game school record, 369 yards and 5 touchdowns in the win Saturday against Big Blue.
Man, it was good to watch. I watched Jada set that same record.
3 years ago,
a couple years back, and I told myself when I walked off the field down there in Valdosta, yeah, this one's gonna stand the test of time. Mm-hmm. And then and then I watched that one on Saturday up in Bluefield, and I was in awe. I was trying not to be a fan. I was trying to.
I was going to ask you that.
But he did a great job. I was proud of him, and we didn't really talk much about it. And he, we kind of got back. You started to hear a lot of the, the records being broken, all those type of things like that. But as a coach, I'm just fortunate that I got to see those last 2 big ones.
2 big ones. That the last one I think broke the record. I think he was a few yards shy, and then the 85-yarder or 84-yarder actually catapulted him past Jada, as I mentioned, 369 yards rushing. He currently now leads all of college football, every level, FBS, FCS, D2, and D3 in rushing with 1,947 yards and 25 touchdowns. The other record, which is in reach, is the single season record that Jada set last year. He's 114 yards shy of breaking that mark, and he's a little over 300 yards from breaking the single season D2 record, which is just over 2,300 yards rushing. He has at least 2 games to surpass that. I mean, you touched on it in your presser earlier this week. You made the case, and a strong case, for him to be the first HBCU player to win the Harlan Hill Award, which is basically the Division II equivalent to the Heisman Trophy. Why should Curtis be the first HBCU player to win that award?
You look at his numbers, and just like the numbers you spoke about previously, leading all divisions.
Yeah.
If we're talking about, the award goes to the best player, in Division II college football, numbers kind of speak for themselves. And, anybody that's seen him play or seen us play this season, they'll make the same case that I'm making, so, we just extremely proud of him. He's one of those guys that kind of, rolled it out with us, stuck it out with us, been here for 4 years, and he's gotten his chance, and he's taking and making the most of it, so 25 plus touchdowns, almost 2,000 yards rushing, and the award has been kind of known to be a quarterback award, so, we know how it kind of rolls, so we know if a running back gets it, he has to put up astonishing numbers. Look at his numbers. So I said earlier in the week, and I had to correct myself that, he deserves it. No, he's earned it. Mm-hmm. So, his name should be at the top of that list.
First year starter. That's the other thing you got to mention. First year starter, followed Jada and what he accomplished in his senior season. And again, and on top of that, the team's performance hasn't dropped off. Still amongst the top in the conference, amongst the top in Division II. You're ranked 2 in the Super Region 1 rankings, 8-1, only unbeaten in the CIAA. I mean, all of that combined, he makes a strong case to make history if he's able to do that this year.
Yeah, he plays with a great supporting cast. We're averaging over 500 yards a game on offense, over 45 points a game on offense. So, he's playing with a great supporting cast, and just the way those guys celebrate each other. When he scores when somebody else scores a touchdown, you might have thought he scored it, simply because those guys do a great job of just making sure that they celebrate one another. So, I'm happy to see this unit kind of doing it that way. So, and again, he's the bell cow of it right now. He's making it happen, and he's doing a great job of doing that.
3 other records were set along with what Curtis did individually. The team set a single game record with 721 yards of total offense. The rushing game total 545. That's a single game school record. And Brady Myers, got to mention what he did. A perfect 10 for 10 on point after attempts. That is a single game program record. And he's the only place kicker in all of Division II with at least 50 or more attempts without a miss on extra points.
Man, those some records. So again, you want to say that those are going to stand the test of time. I think they will. But I said the same thing about Jada's record. So again, those type of yards, those type of numbers and things like that, almost, close to video game type numbers. So, we set the last record last year. I believe it was 690 something with Kentucky State, those guys come back a year later and, they just keep outdoing themselves. So, again, I'm proud of the group.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about that and also the matchup that will wrap up the regular season for Virginia Union, the I-95 showdown with Virginia State. That is Senior Day at Hovey. We're going to talk more about that in our final segment. We got plenty more to come here on the Alvin Parker Coaches Show, so stay with us.
The styles you want, the brands you love, with the service you deserve. Better Menswear, from formal to casual wear. We carry quality men's clothing at sensible prices, where fashion and service meet affordability. That is Better Menswear.
Welcome back to the Alvin Parker Coaches Show. Coach will join us in our final segment to talk about the big Senior Day showdown with Virginia State this Saturday. Coming up at Hovey Field. Game will be nationally televised, and we'll talk more about that in the final segment. But in our Players Lounge segment, we got 2 guys on offense, 2 guys on defense. We've got R.J. Rosales, Curtis Allen, who we've talked about a lot. He may not say much in this segment. We also have Lamumba Howard and also Ahmad Ross representing the defense. So we're not going to talk a lot about offense. We're going to split the time today with O and D. Hey, great success. Congratulations on your team's success to this point. And thank you guys, for at least for 3 of you. Thank you for joining us again. Mar, welcome for your first time this season.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Just walk us through this. I mean, we were talking about it off camera. Seemed like last week we were talking about that first game in Canton. Now we're talking about the regular season finale, and you guys are going to be back in that conference championship game for a 3rd year in a row. What's going through your mind right now as you're preparing for not only the season finale against V-State, but also a matchup with either Johnson C. Smith or Fayetteville State in the conference championship game?
I would say in my mind, it's go time. I'm from down south, so whenever the weather starts to get as it is now, I know it's playoff time. And I did mention to Kurt earlier in the week, like, man, this is our last home game coming up for him. It's his last, home game at Virginia Union, unless, things rolling off favor for the playoffs. So,
well, at least the last regular season. We'll say that.
Regular season.
Yeah.
So, it's just go time because we know how important things are starting to get and how nitty-gritty things are going to be. So just, staying on the edge, but then staying relaxed and understanding it's business that needs to be handled still.
You can repeat the question for me.
Just what's going through your mind, just, the success you guys have had to this point and, the standard that you all have set leading up to this season and then back in the conference championship game for a 3rd year in a row. Like RJ said, this is last time you're going to wear those home colors, at least for the regular season at Hovey.
Yeah, it's a lot going through my mind, at least, because it is it is my last home game possibly, but we just really taking it one game at a time, really a week at a time, and just trying to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot, it's a lot going through my mind. I remember we was just in here not too long ago talking about Miles.
Yeah.
And now it's the last game. Like he said, my last regular season home game in a Panther jersey. Like they said, I'm taking it week by week, focusing on this week first, and then we get that call next week. Then take it, get that third one as a goal. But I'm calm right now.
The calm before the storm.
Yeah,
I got you.
Yeah.
It's a little different for me. These guys all got championship experience, and they got a ring to go on the fingers. This being my first year at Union, it's really exciting. Been a while since I got to play some winning football around this time of the year, and the weather started to get cold. Playoffs get here. I feel like the best players play their best, in a big moment. So, confident in our team, and especially everybody sitting on the couches today.
Back to what you were saying about, you wanting that ring. The other three gentlemen have had had that taste of winning a championship here at Union. When you first arrived, did you talk to the guys about, hey, you're just coming off that championship, making history last year? Did you, ask questions and kind of, get the feel of what it was like to win it last year?
Definitely, just coming here into the program, like they had a lot of success in recent years and everything, and I love to win. So like I'm asking guys all the time, how is y'all doing at this point in the season, and not necessarily comparing, just seeing how on track we are, just following up with what great teams they have had in the past have done. But our goal for us, the conference championship was our goal. That's a goal for everybody, and like not to downplay that at all. But our goal, we feel like we want to show that not only just Virginia Union, but HBCU football in general can compete, with anybody in the country.
Well, you certainly did that last year, making it to the national quarters. Do you even kind of go back to how you got to that point a year ago and kind of use that experience to get ready for this go around, being at this point, going to the championship and possibly another run at the postseason?
I would say for me personally, yes and no. Just yes, understanding what it takes because I witnessed it, but no for the sake of, of course I was a part of it, but when the unfortunate injury happened, my contribution came, when my number was called in Wingate. So a lot of like Ahmad and a lot of our new guys on defense and younger guys that have had to step up and make an impact on the team. I'm still hunting for my first one, So and that's the
being the guy.
Yeah, so that's. I've always been a winner. I say that humbly, but it's time for, for us to go ahead and make that impact as well, and help these seniors and send them out the right way.
You've always talked about setting the standard, and I guess for you guys, that's like been the talk. Like what last year's team did was great, but you guys individually want to, put your fingerprint and your imprint on this year's group to do what they did last year and maybe go further than last year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like week by week, I know like on the defensive side of the ball, especially me, I try to come with like with new like slogans each week to challenge everybody because like each week is a different test. Being so we have a lot of new guys, I'm trying to build everybody's mindset to come up for this specific timeline because around this time it gets tough. It's where you got to lock in more, you got to keen on to the small things more. So trying to instill that to everybody's mind, especially on the defensive side, is going to be key for us in this last stretch.
Have you thought about that message you want to tell the guys leading up to the state game?
Yeah, I know me, I'm not really like a big talker, but like I know in the moment what I got to say will probably come out. So we'll see when the time comes.
Okay. Well, this guy over here making national news for what you did on Saturday against Bluefield State. I'm going to give you the last word. Setting the single game record, and you close to breaking the single season rushing record, and you about a little over 300 yards away from the Division II mark in a single season. Do you even think about that stuff, or is it solely about that opportunity to win another ring?
I'm being honest, I think about it sometimes, but it's not something that like I just like overly think about. It's just, I just go out there and play football and let my talent, take over and do what I'm supposed to do.
Did the teammates, did anybody say to you on the sideline, you're this much away, are you this much away, you broke the record?
Nah, I already knew, like, I was keeping track. As I was like playing, I already like kind of had in my head like where I was at and like how close I was.
I will say, like in game, we don't really notice like what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, Kurt doing his thing again. But then we go back after the game, like,
He was like,
what?
It was crazy to see it transpire. So a lot of people don't know he wasn't supposed to be in. He's fighting with coach. I need one more. And he's talking about a drive. Coach said, "I'll give you one more play." And
that was the play.
And then when he called the play, and I just looked at him, I said, "House it." And I mean, he gone.
369 and 5 touchdowns. Hey man, congrats! Continue success for all of you guys. Stay healthy, and hopefully another long run in the postseason for you guys. They got one more, and that's the season finale against Virginia State at Hovey on Saturday. We're going to talk more about that with Coach Parker on our final segment of the Alvin Parker Coaches Show.
UBU 100 is a global mindset and thought process that promotes self-care, positive relationship building practices, and the building of stronger communities. UBU 100 provides accelerated college and career readiness life skills training for students that attend Martin Luther King Jr. Middle School in the city of Richmond. Follow us at ubu100.org to learn more about our fabulous program. UBU 100.
All right, back for our final segment of the Alvin Parker Coach Show. Thank you guys for staying with us on YouTube and all of the Virginia Union social media platforms. Big thanks to the two offensive players, of course, RJ and Curtis, along with Ahmad and Lumumba. They'll be in action on Saturday, the big one, the regular season finale against Virginia State. Last couple of years, it determined who was going to not only win the North title at the time or who was going to play in the championship game. Last year, both State and Union were in the conference championship game. Union repeated down in that cold Salem Stadium down there on that, what was it? It was a Saturday afternoon into night. Crazy atmosphere down there in Salem. This year is going to be in Durham. We'll talk about that next week. But like you said, cannot overlook what Virginia State has done. They've won 4 in a row and are 6-3, and they've got some offensive numbers as good, if not as anybody in this league. Number 1 passing offense in the CIAA this season.
Yeah, they got a bunch of guys that can get it done, and they've had a bunch of offensive prowess the last couple of years, especially, so since Coach Frazier's arrived, those guys can get it done. They getting it done with a new QB in there. You know what I'm saying? And he's playing extremely well. Got a bunch of guys catching the ball for him well. They still got all those big guys up front. So
Bruno is still there.
That's still there. And then as far as the defense goes, they still have a lot of those guys that played in that championship game last year.
The top 2 offenses will go head to head. Of course, Virginia Union near the top in the CIAA and total defense, but Union is 1, Virginia State is 2. When you've seen them on tape, including their win against Lincoln, what stands out offensively outside of the normal names with RJ, the quarterback, and also Pretlow, the wide receiver? What stands out about their offensive scheme?
They have a lot of playmakers. That's the most thing. I think that's the thing you want to be, have your offense be playmaker heavy, and they're extremely playmaker heavy. So a lot of the things they do, they rely on their skills to be good, and they've been good. You can tell with the numbers, and you can just tell by the plays they've made all season. So the quarterback is the catalyst to everything. He gets it done. I think his numbers probably got him somewhere near the top of the league. So he's one that we got to be ready for on Saturday. Came
off of a 272-yard, 4-touchdown performance against Lincoln on Saturday. Like I said, 3 of those touchdowns went to Jalen Pretlow. You said they got some playmakers on that wide receiver. They can, go 3, they can go 4. But you've kind of seen offenses maybe a little similar to what Virginia State, but maybe not the weapons that maybe, I guess, Winston to a certain degree with their receivers. Do you even get a chance to maybe look back at who you've played to say schematically, State kind of mirrors this team that we've already played?
I think we're playing those guys. This will be our third time in less than a year.
This is true. This is true.
So you don't have to really look any further than them.
Just look at the tape.
You don't really have to look any further than them. Some of those guys are back, and the other guys are kind of just like those guys they've already had. So in terms of just making sure that we have a game plan for those guys and be ready for those guys. You don't have to look any further than what we've seen from them, in the last couple of times we've played them. So they're doing some things, got a few new people in a few different places, but, in terms of just the type of team they are, they're a Coach Frazier built team. His teams are generally always built the same, with good offenses and strong defenses and solid special teams. So, we expect nothing less this weekend.
And Hammond, the running back, has really had a good 3-game stretch as well, similar to what Williams did for them last year.
Yep, he's good. He broke a couple off the last couple of weeks, and some long runs. So they have to still have that home run hitting ability from that backfield. That's something that, like I said, Virginia State has always had. So, again, being prepared for all phases of the offense. Of course, their pass offense is extremely diverse in what they're doing, but they have a strong running game behind that big offensive line, like I said earlier.
You mentioned the fact, and I totally missed it. The fact that this is like the third time in about a year that you guys have played each other. Is there such a thing as over prepared because you know each other so well? Given that, do you want to add a couple of things this week to kind of get the other team off balance to a certain degree?
I mean, they still have some new guys in the fold, but like I said, a lot of guys with championship experience. So you know what, you got to do the thing. Like I said, at this point, that almost work for you more so than try to scheme up against those guys as heavily as most would do. So that's our thing right now, just making sure we're at the juncture where we're playing our best ball right now. I feel like so we want to just kind of keep that going, and kind of do everything we got to do to secure that W on Saturday.
And it's always a special day, the last regular season game for the seniors. This group that has done so much for you guys in this program, as you mentioned, to set the standard, play for 11. What can you say about this group of seniors that will be playing their final regular season home game?
We have 15 of those guys that'll be walking on Saturday, with 3 with the ability to come back and play another year if they want to. So we're not a heavy senior laden team. These guys have been around me and these guys have stuck through the program, which is a testament. All those guys are on track to graduate. That's the most beautifulest thing about it all. So like I said, we won championships the last couple of years, but we've also won that GPA award the last couple of years too, which means these guys are doing what they're supposed to be doing in the classroom. And these 15 guys that we're going to have walking on Saturday are going to be no different. So that's the most thing I stick my chest out about as a coach. Don't hurt to get a couple championships and things along the way. But these guys are going to be, successful in life. So I'm happy about that. Their parents get to come, their families get to come and celebrate them on this special day. I still remember my senior day here, and it's something that you never forget, so I'm happy for those guys. We're going to celebrate them as a team. Before then, their parents and family, like I said, will be here on Saturday to celebrate them. And it's something to really, really look forward to.
How cool was it in that last segment when RJ was kind of talking about Curtis and, being a senior, talking about how he gave him so much praise on the fact that he could have easily left, after, sitting for a few years behind Jada, and what he was able to accomplish in his last season, and to have that opportunity to break some records possibly Saturday in his last regular season game.
Man, when you get your names in the record books under different categories and things like that, it definitely make it all worthwhile. And it's not uncommon anymore for somebody to leave and go to another place because of the portal. So you don't necessarily frown upon it like you used to back in the day when somebody transfers. So we couldn't have frowned upon it, what I'm saying? Because again, Jada was a special player in his time, and Curtis waited. And like I say, when you look at Curtis, numbers throughout his time here, he never had backup numbers. He was always, top 5 in the league in rushing. While Jada probably was still number 1, Curtis was right there, not far behind, and was ahead of a lot of backs at other schools. So he's never had a career being like a backup. Whenever he got his touches, his average was always crazy. So now this year is no different with him getting the bulk of the lion's share of the carries. So, those guys celebrate one another. These guys are great teammates. When you have guys that when you can look around, to make that long bus ride back on Saturday, it was so many guys that got dirty in that game in terms of playing. The bus ride was easy. It was happy. It was fun because you know what? you know, everybody that got on those buses played. You know, so when you get more guys that can get the action and get a chance, you know, to make a contribution, the happier team you have. So I think that's one thing I can say about our team. Our team is playing well right now. They're happy, they're focused, and they're looking to kind of keep this thing going.
Well, continued success, Coach. Good luck to you on Senior Day Saturday against Virginia State, and we'll talk next week about that game and what's in store for the Panthers in the postseason.
Absolutely.
Don't forget, kickoff is at 1 o'clock at Hovey Field. We want a big crowd coming out to see the I-95 showdown between Virginia Union and Virginia State. It will be nationally televised on HBCU Go, and we will talk about it next week and talk about the CIAA championship game. We know Union's in it. The question is, who will they play? Either Johnson C. Smith or Fayetteville State. One of those two will face Union next Saturday in Durham for the CIAA championship game. We'll talk about that next week. For our entire crew, I'm Sean Robertson. Join us next week on the Alvin Parker Coaches Show.
Football is more than a game. It's a legacy built by trailblazers who paved the way for the next generation. I remember the doubters, but I refuse to let anyone define my limits. To the game changers who came before us and to the ones who are yet to step into the field, keep pushing boundaries, keep breaking records, and keep leaving your mark.